So this is the approach to Baalbek. This is actually the quarry. It's located about a mile from the Baalbek temple site. And here we are inside the quarry. You can see that a lot of stone has been removed from the quarry here, which is a limestone quarry.
What civilization could move stones weighing over 1,600 tons without machines or records? In Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, they exist. Tourists admire Roman ruins above, never realizing they're standing on the greatest engineering mystery on Earth.
Baalbek was a major place of worship for several ancient civilizations, dating all the way back to 9000 BC.
Perfectly cut, impossibly massive, seismic-ready stones, built for someone or something far beyond human scale. If humans didn't need this, then who did? Welcome to Baalbek, where history as we know it falls apart. Baalbek's silent giants. The Romans arrived at Baalbek around 15 BCE. They called it Heliopolis, the city of the sun, and transformed it into one of their most ambitious temple complexes in the Eastern Empire. The Temple of Jupiter once featured 54 columns standing 22 meters tall, each carved from a single piece of granite imported from Egypt. Yeah, classic Roman architecture dominated every visible surface. Corinthian capitals, intricate friezes, imperial grandeur at its finest. But here's where the story starts to crack. The foundation those temples sit on uses a completely different construction technique, completely different scale, completely different engineering philosophy. And there is not a single Roman document claiming credit for building it. Consider what that means. The Romans were obsessed with documentation. They carved inscriptions boasting about every bridge, every aqueduct, every monument their engineers constructed. We know exactly who commissioned the Colosseum.
The Colosseum was, and still is, colossal. It's the great example of ancient Roman engineering. It was begun in 72 AD, during the reign of Emperor Vespasian, when the empire was nearing its peak.
We know Hadrian rebuilt the Pantheon around 126 CE. We have detailed records of construction costs, labor forces, and engineering methods for structures across 3 continents. A Roman engineering pride was legendary, almost obnoxious in its self-celebration. So where are the records for moving stones 10 times heavier than anything else in Roman history? Where is the emperor taking credit for the greatest engineering achievement of the ancient world? Where are the inscriptions celebrating the workers who accomplished the impossible? Silence. Complete, deafening silence. The Romans documented their dinner parties more thoroughly than they documented building the most massive stone platform in human history. Either they suffered a mysterious collective amnesia about their greatest accomplishment, or they didn't build it. The academic consensus has always been that Romans constructed the entire complex. This consensus exists primarily because no one wants to ask the obvious follow-up question. If not the Romans, so then who? But the missing records were just the beginning of the problem. What researchers found in the western retaining wall would make Roman engineering look like amateur hour. They call it the trilithon. 3 stone blocks forming part of the foundation's western wall, each measuring roughly 19 meters long, over 4 meters high, and nearly 4 meters deep. Weight estimates range from 800 to 1,000 tons per block. To put that in perspective, the largest stones in the Great Pyramid of Giza weigh approximately 80 tons. Stonehenge's famous megaliths clock in around 25 tons. The trilithon blocks are 10 times heavier than the pyramids, 40 times heavier than Stonehenge, and they're not sitting on the ground. Someone lifted them 7 meters into the air and positioned them with millimeter precision. The joints between these megaliths are so tight, you cannot slide a piece of paper between them. No mortar, no filler. Just stone meeting stone with accuracy that makes modern surveyors deeply uncomfortable. Dr. Jean-Pierre Adam, a French archaeologist who spent 3 years documenting the site, described his reaction bluntly. He said he had studied Roman construction his entire career, And this wasn't Roman. He didn't know what it was. Professor Daniel Lohmann from the German Archaeological Institute examined the joints between the massive blocks and went quiet for a long moment before responding. 40 years of engineering experience across 3 continents, and he had never encountered precision like this. The tolerances, he said, are tighter than what modern bridge construction achieves with diamond-tipped cutting equipment and computer guidance. These aren't the observations of conspiracy theorists or alternative history enthusiasts. These are peer-reviewed archaeologists and structural engineers examining physical evidence with their own instruments, and they cannot explain what they're measuring. Baalbek's gigantic mystery. The trilithon pushed the boundaries of possibility, but researchers kept asking what else might be hiding at Baalbek. The answer was waiting in a quarry 800 meters away, and it would shatter everything we thought we understood about ancient construction. In 2014, a team of German and Lebanese archaeologists were conducting routine excavations near the ancient quarry site, and their ground-penetrating radar had detected something large beneath the surface, but quarries are full of abandoned stones. No one expected anything remarkable. Then their equipment hit something massive. Dr. Janine Abdul-Masih, leading the dig, ordered her team to keep excavating. Hours turned into days. The stone kept going. Every time they thought they had reached its edge, there was more stone beneath the soil. When they finally mapped its full dimensions, the entire team fell silent. They were looking at a single stone block measuring over 19 meters long, 6 meters wide, and nearly 6 meters tall. Weight estimate, 1,650 tons, still attached to bedrock. Abandoned mid-extraction, precision cut, ready for transport that never came, 1,650 tons. Nay, that's heavier than 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets stacked together. Heavier than the Statue of Liberty. Heavier than anything humans have documented moving in all of recorded history. But here's where it gets truly unsettling. This wasn't the only abandoned megalith. Nearby sat the famous Stone of the Pregnant Woman, another 1,000-ton block that had been known for centuries. And beneath the 2014 discovery, a third massive stone was detected.
Is the Stone of the South, or the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, it's also called. And just beneath that, over that side, is the 1,650-ton stone that was found, rediscovered, and dug out in 2014.
Potentially even larger than the first. Someone quarried these stones. Someone cut them with surgical precision from living bedrock. Someone had a detailed plan to move them nearly a kilometer across uneven terrain and lift them into position alongside the others. And then they stopped. Mid-project. Tools down. Walk away. Never came back. What could possibly cause an advanced civilization to abandon stones they had spent months or years preparing? What catastrophe interrupts work of this magnitude? You don't invest that kind of labor and then simply leave. You don't cut the largest stones in human history and forget about them. Unless something forced you to stop. Unless something happened that made completion impossible. The abandoned quarry stones aren't just a mystery. They're evidence of a catastrophic interruption. Something ended this project before it could be finished. And whatever that something was, it happened so completely that no one ever returned to complete the work. Baalbek. Impossible stones. What moving these stones would actually require? This is where the official explanations start to collapse under their own weight. For the largest mobile cranes operating today max out around 200 tons under perfect conditions on flat, prepared ground. The Tai-Sun crane in China, one of the world's most powerful fixed installations, can lift approximately 20,000 tons. But it's a massive stationary system that took years to construct, using modern steel and hydraulic technology. Even it would struggle with the largest Baalbek stones without extensive preparation. The ancient builders had no steel cables, no hydraulic systems, no wheels capable of handling this weight, Bronze Age tools at best. Iron tools if we're being generous about the timeline. The terrain between the quarry and the temple site is rocky and uneven, completely unsuitable for rolling heavy loads. There are no ancient roads wide enough or strong enough to support transport of this magnitude, and the ground itself would need to be reinforced to prevent stones of this weight from simply sinking into the earth. Some researchers have suggested wooden roller systems using cedar logs, which were abundant in ancient Lebanon. Here's the problem with that theory. An 800-ton stone would crush and splinter any wooden roller almost instantly. The compression force would exceed the structural capacity of any known wood species. You would need continuous replacement of crushed rollers, requiring thousands upon thousands of logs just for a single transport operation. And you would need somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 laborers pulling in perfect synchronization with rope systems, all communicating flawlessly across a distance of nearly a kilometer. You would essentially need a small city working in absolute coordination using communication systems we have zero evidence for. That's just moving the stones horizontally, lifting them 7 meters into the air, positioning them with millimeter accuracy against existing megaliths that weigh nearly as much. Modern structural engineers who have analyzed the problem use the same phrase repeatedly, effectively impossible with documented ancient technology. But the cutting is where the mystery deepens into something genuinely disturbing. Dr. Gerhard Koppler, a German engineer who spent months analyzing tool marks on the foundation stones, found something that doesn't fit any conventional explanation. The cutting patterns don't match Roman techniques at all. When Romans cut stone, they left characteristic chisel marks that archaeologists recognize immediately. Distinct impact patterns from hammer and chisel work, regular spacing, predictable depth variations. Roman stonework has a signature as identifiable as a fingerprint. The Baalbek megaliths show completely different marks. Smooth faces suggesting abrasive cutting methods, regular striations consistent with wire saw technology, precision that implies mechanical guidance rather than hand tools. These are cutting patterns we have no evidence the Romans ever possessed. These are cutting patterns that suggest technology more advanced than anything documented in the ancient world. The mystery of who built this foundation was troubling enough. But what modern technology revealed about how they built it was genuinely terrifying. Baalbek, defying earthquakes. Lebanon sits on one of the most seismically active fault lines in the Mediterranean. The Dead Sea Transform runs directly beneath the region, generating earthquakes that have devastated civilizations for millennia. Cities have crumbled. Mountains have shifted. The geological record is written in collapsed structures and rebuilt empires. The Roman columns above the Baalbek foundation have toppled multiple times throughout history. Only 6 of the original 54 remain standing today, and those required modern stabilization with steel cables and concrete reinforcement. Roman engineering, for all its brilliance, could not withstand 2,000 years of seismic assault. The megalithic foundation hasn't budged. Not a single massive stone has shifted. Not a single joint has cracked. Not a single block has moved despite earthquakes that destroyed everything built on top of it. The same forces that toppled 22-meter granite pillars left 1,000-ton foundation stones completely undisturbed. In 2019, researchers conducted 3-dimensional laser scanning of the entire platform. What they discovered defied everything they expected. The stones interlock using a sophisticated system that allows controlled micro-movement during earthquakes without structural failure. When seismic waves hit, the joints flex slightly, absorbing energy that would otherwise cause catastrophic damage. Then they settle back into their original position once the shaking stops. The foundation breathes with the earth rather than fighting against it. This technique is called base isolation. It's one of the most advanced methods in modern earthquake engineering. We developed it in the late 20th century after decades of studying seismic behavior with computer modeling and shake table experiments. We use it in hospitals, nuclear facilities, and critical infrastructure where failure is not an option. Whoever designed the Baalbek Foundation understood these principles thousands of years before modern geology existed. They engineered seismic resistance into a structure using nothing but precisely cut stone and perfect joint tolerances. No steel, no rubber bearings, no computer simulations. Just understanding so complete that their work has outlasted everything built on top of it by civilizations that came millennia later. Think about what that means. The Romans possessed the most advanced construction technology of their era. They built roads that still carry traffic today. They engineered aqueducts that supplied water for centuries. They understood arches, domes, and concrete better than anyone in the ancient world. Their temples fell. The unknown builder's foundation endures. The Greeks mastered geometry and proportion. They built the Parthenon to standards that architects still study. They understood mathematics and engineering at a level that wouldn't be matched for over 1,000 years. Nothing they built would survive what this foundation has survived. The Egyptians constructed pyramids that have stood for 45 centuries. Impressive by any measure.
This morning, we are learning more about a new discovery in one of the world's most ancient structures. Scientists say that they have found a mysterious chamber hidden deep inside Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza.
But the pyramids don't sit on active fault lines. They don't face repeated seismic events. They endure through sheer mass, not sophisticated engineering. The Baalbek Foundation does something different. It doesn't just resist earthquakes. It absorbs them. It moves with the earth and then returns to equilibrium. It demonstrates understanding of dynamic stress loading that we only formalized in the past 100 years. Either the Romans possessed seismic engineering knowledge they never used anywhere else in their empire and never wrote about and never taught to anyone and somehow forgot entirely, or someone else built this foundation. Someone who understood forces we didn't quantify until the 20th century. Someone who engineered solutions we didn't develop until we had computers and modern materials science. Someone whose identity has been erased from history so completely that only their impossible stones remain. The Romans built monuments to their glory. Those monuments crumbled. Yet the unknown builders constructed a foundation in silence. That foundation still stands, waiting for someone to explain how they knew what they knew thousands of years before we figured it out ourselves. Pre-Roman megaliths. Here's where theories circulating among researchers venture into deeply uncomfortable territory. The scale of this foundation is wildly, absurdly disproportionate to any known temple structure from any civilization. Roman temples were built to impress, but they didn't require foundations capable of supporting weights that defy modern construction equipment. Nothing in Roman architecture required stones this large. Nothing in any architecture required stones this large. The engineering sophistication exceeds documented capabilities of every ancient culture in the region. The Egyptians, Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans all possessed impressive construction abilities. None of them demonstrate anything approaching this level of precision with materials of this magnitude. The construction halted abruptly with precision-cut stones abandoned in the quarry, like workers fled mid-shift and never returned. These aren't rough stones that might have been test pieces or rejects. These are finished megaliths, ready for transport, representing months or years of skilled labor. You don't abandon investments like that for minor inconveniences. And the weathering patterns on foundation stones show thousands of years more erosion than the Roman structures sitting on top of them. This is measurable. Limestone weathers at predictable rates depending on exposure to elements. But the differential erosion between the megalithic foundation and Roman additions above indicates the foundation is significantly older than the temples it supports, potentially thousands of years older. Some archaeologists now propose a scenario that sounds like science fiction until you examine the physical evidence yourself. An unknown civilization with technology we haven't recovered built this foundation. They did so during the Bronze Age or even earlier, when this site was already considered sacred by cultures whose names have been lost to history. They possessed engineering knowledge that was subsequently lost, perhaps through catastrophic collapse of their society, perhaps through deliberate destruction, perhaps through processes we cannot reconstruct. Centuries or millennia later, the Romans discovered this platform already in place. They recognized it as sacred ground, as every civilization before them had. They built their temples on top, never understanding or replicating the original construction methods. They couldn't explain what they had found, so they simply used it without comment. This would explain the silence in Roman records. They weren't claiming credit for the foundation because they didn't build it. They couldn't have built it. They inherited it from builders whose identity has been lost to time. This theory is not popular in academic circles. It raises too many uncomfortable questions about what else we might have wrong about ancient capabilities. It suggests there are gaps in the historical record so large that entire civilizations have fallen through them. And it implies that human technological development has not been the steady upward progression we prefer to believe. But the alternative is believing that Romans built the greatest engineering achievement in human history and then forgot to write it down. That they moved stones 10 times heavier than anything else they ever attempted and left no record of how they did it. That they possessed technology for one project in one location that they never used anywhere else in their vast empire. The physical evidence says one thing. The official narrative says another. And the gap between them keeps widening with every new measurement. What lies beneath recent ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed something that researchers are still processing. The visible platform is not the entire structure. Additional foundation components extend beneath the visible stones, continuing deeper underground than anyone previously realized. The megalithic construction doesn't stop at ground level. It goes down. How far down remains unknown because current funding doesn't allow for the extensive excavation that would be required to find out. There may be entire layers of construction still buried, hidden for millennia, waiting beneath the soil of a site that has been continuously occupied for 9,000 years. 9,000 years. That's 7,000 years before the first Roman soldier set foot in Lebanon. That's older than the earliest Egyptian pyramids by 4,000 years. That's older than Stonehenge by 5,000 years. Human habitation at this site dates back to the Neolithic period, and every single culture that occupied it considered it sacred. Phoenicians called it Baalbek, the city of the god Baal. Greeks named it Heliopolis, city of the sun.
Eastern Lebanon, the Bekaa Valley. Here, at this archaeological site, stand the ruins of Heliopolis. Built in the 4th century BC,
Romans built their most ambitious temple complex here, choosing this specific location above all others in the Eastern Empire. Why? What was so special about this particular spot that civilization after civilization, across millennia of cultural change, kept returning to build here? What did they find that made them recognize this place as sacred? Maybe every one of those civilizations recognized something we're only now beginning to understand. Something extraordinary happened at this location. Something that left behind a foundation that defies every explanation modern engineering can offer. The evidence keeps compounding. Romans left zero documentation of their supposed engineering miracle. Construction techniques don't match anything Roman found anywhere else in their empire. Abandoned quarry stones suggest sudden, unexplained project interruption. Seismic engineering capabilities exceed known ancient science by thousands of years. Weathering patterns indicate the foundation predates Roman occupation by potentially millennia, and the sheer scale remains wildly disproportionate to any documented human construction need. Every individual anomaly could potentially be explained away with enough creativity, but the accumulation of anomalies at a single site passes the threshold of coincidence. Something happened here that our current understanding of history cannot accommodate. Platform of Giants. You can visit Baalbek yourself. The site is open to tourists, though most of them never understand what they're really looking at. You can touch these stones with your own hands. Run your fingers along joints tighter than modern manufacturing tolerances allow. Stand beneath blocks heavier than anything humans have documented, moving in all of recorded history. Feel the scale of construction that dwarfs everything else ancient civilizations ever attempted. The precision is measured and verified. The impossible weights are documented and confirmed. The engineering sophistication is analyzed and proven beyond reasonable dispute. And the greatest mystery isn't how they moved these stones. We might eventually figure that out as our understanding of ancient capabilities evolves. The greatest mystery is what they were building that required a foundation of such inhuman scale. What structure could possibly need blocks that our strongest cranes struggle to lift? What purpose demands a platform engineered to survive earthquakes for millennia? What were the builders supporting that justified the largest worked stones in human history?
Gigantic megalithic stones incorporated into the foundation, each weighing between 800 to 1,200 tons.
The Romans built temples here. Those temples were impressive by Roman standards. They were also wildly inadequate for the foundation they sat upon. Building the Temple of Jupiter on this platform is like building a shed on the foundation of a skyscraper. The scale mismatch is almost comical. Whatever the original builders intended to construct, whatever purpose justified stones weighing over 1,000 tons and precision that exceeds modern capabilities, the Romans who arrived millennia later had no idea. They used what they found because it was there, because it was massive, because it was clearly sacred to everyone who had come before. But they didn't understand it, and neither do we. The stones remain. The foundations endure, silent witnesses to a story no one has been able to fully explain. Who moved them? How were they lifted, positioned, and aligned with a precision that defies what we know about ancient technology? And why was the work abandoned or erased so completely? Every measurement has been verified, every block documented, yet the answers slip through our fingers. Baalbek doesn't give us comfort, and it doesn't offer easy explanations. It forces us to confront a reality that challenges everything we believe about human history, engineering, and ambition. The story isn't finished. The evidence is still here, waiting, speaking in stone. The question is not whether it can be solved, but whether we are ready to accept what the truth might demand.